Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bogey Golf Podcast brought to you by AIG, dedicated supporters of Golf Ireland and Golf in Ireland for the last 25 years. Golf Ireland members can get an additional 10% off your car insurance when you go and visit aig.ie. In today's episode, I am joined by Matt McClean. We have a fascinating conversation all around how he played in the Masters and the US Open after winning the 2022 US Mid-Am, as well as winning the Irish Amateur earlier this year in County Sligo. Now, Matt McClean, how are you? You've had a very busy year. I mean, you've had a very busy few years, but 2024 in particular, great year. How are you?
I'm all good, Johnny. Yeah, good to be back on the podcast. It's been a while, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's been a great year. Busy as you said, a lot of golf, a lot of traveling, a couple of new tournaments, sort of new countries getting to go to and playing some competitive golf. So it's been some good, a bit more sort of mixed bag this year. Some good, some not so good. So it's been a bit of an up and down season.
yeah. I think when we last had you on the Bogeyman, you hadn't yet gone over to play the US Open or the Masters. I think let's start off with those first. What were those experiences like? You'd obviously won the US Mid-Am, and with that came a couple of invites into a few of the majors. Let's start off with, we'll do it chronologically in terms of the years. The Masters, how was that?
Yeah, sure. As you said, it was an exciting sort of time. Just obviously when I was on the podcast with you guys, it was just sort of in the winter and the lead up to the 23 season. So, um, yeah, obviously that winter was pretty cool. Just you had that sort of excitement, obviously coming up to Easter time that you were going to get to go over to the Masters
Mm.
and play the tournament. So it was great. Like it was pretty much as good of a week as you could expect it to be. Obviously making the cut would have been great, but it was good to play good golf and sort of have a sweat at the cut coming into the back nine. Um, but yeah, it was. I think the only sort of worry about going into the week was more, was it going to be that enjoyable? It may have been sort of, if there's so many nerves, it might not be enjoyable. But everyone makes you feel pretty at ease there when you're there. So, yeah, I had a great time with a friend of mine. Steve was on the bag as well, so we sort of like chilled each other out a bit, and yeah, had a great time. It's cool to sort of see behind the ropes, behind the cameras, all that stuff. Obviously, of what goes on at a tournament, and it's funny how relatable it is to like amateur tournaments. How chilled out all the guys are, and it is just at the end of the day, you turn up to the tee box and play around the golf. So, great experience just to sort of feed off that and bring it back into some of the amateur tournaments I was playing.
Is Augusta as special as everyone says it is?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't really have any bad word to say about it. So, I sort of equate it to that sort of, it's that sort of feeling of like St Andrews. St Andrews, isn't the best links course in the world just based on the golf course, but the sort of the experience you get at St Andrews and walking off the first, walking up the 18th is like unlike anywhere else. So, it's a similar idea, that feeling in Augusta. Some of the holes that you're standing on. You've seen thousands of shots playing into those holes in TV over the years. Of course, is obviously exceptional as well, condition wise, and the layout is fantastic. But really, that sort of idea, every shot you play, you've seen 1,000 times. So yeah, it is the number one experience I think in golf.
And then the US Open, that experience then that was, I mean, another great week for you.
Yeah, as I said, it's a very different experience. US Open is massive. It's a big media week. There's a lot of entertainment going on. There's a lot of off the course activities that are going on from an entertainment side of thing, which was great. So it was cool to get involved with all that stuff. And um, the course was, again, as you'd expect, the US Open, incredibly difficult. So it was good just to test your game to that level of golf course. And again, I actually didn't play very well the US Open week. Just the way sort of it played that week wasn't great, but there were still positives coming out of it, and obviously in terms of playing in front of those sorts of crowds and in front of TV worldwide, it was a cool experience to play, and got to play with Seamus Parr actually in the tournament, which was cool, and Ryan Fox, which he was super chilled out when we were playing.
What's it like to share those experiences with guys like obviously you played practice rounds as well with was it Pork and Shane as well at the Masters?
Yeah, the Masters was Shane. Yeah, I played with Shane twice at the Masters, and actually I got to play 9 holes with Rory at the Masters as well, which was incredible. And then at the US Open, it was Shane and Podrick. Yeah, Podrick was playing the US Open.
What was it like to share those weeks with? Because obviously they're all very good at giving 9 holes and a bit of practice rounds, but also when it comes to tournaments itself, they're very very good at imparting wisdom and just kind of helping out the Irish. What was it like to spend a bit of time with those guys?
Yeah, it was great. Obviously, the link with Shane was really through Neil in Golf Ireland, so
Yeah.
that was sort of an easy link there. So Shane was he's very helpful. He just basically said if you need anything, then give me a text and I'll do what I can do, see what I can do. But obviously, you don't you're intentionally not hounding them the whole week because
Yeah.
obviously they're there to do their own thing as well. So no, it was nice of him to obviously to give that bit of advice and play a couple of rounds with him. So he was definitely helpful that week of the Masters. And then Roy played 9 holes with Roy, and it was cool just to play with him, chill out. He was obviously focused on the Masters, a huge amount each year. So it was nice for him to take 9 holes out and play on the Wednesday. But it was good. Like Padraig was really good in terms of obviously the experience he has, and especially in amateur golf as well. He played obviously had a great amateur career, so um, that sort of insight to his career, and he's just so interested in golf that's he would stand and sit and talk to you for 30 minutes about a golf club from like the 1980s in the while we're waiting to book a tea time. So he's all in. So it was cool to spend a bit of time with him and pick his brain a wee bit.
What do you learn from those weeks about your own game, firstly, but then like yourself as like personally from those major weeks in particular with the at the US Open and the Masters? Like, do you come away from learning having learned anything in particular about your own game, firstly?
Yeah, I think it's sort of every standard you play, you always play with better players. You sort of see the small things that they do better. That's always the case for any handicap, going from an 18 handicap to a 12 handicap.
Mm.
There's not that big a difference in a lot of these sort of jumps, but there's just small things that they do a bit better. So, um, like pretty much all the pros there, they all hit it really good. They hit a good distance, but if you go into a top elite amateur event, it's relatively similar in terms of ball striking and distance. And I know they just don't seem to do anything stupid a lot of the time. They just sort of get it around and don't hit any disaster shots, and if they just hold out incredibly well from inside 5 foot. So um, that's probably the sort of the biggest thing you take from it is just the way they score is why they're there. There's thousands of guys who can hit the ball the same way and look the same on the range, but they just have that extra bit of thing when they're on the golf course. They can just put it together and put a score together. So that's obviously an incredibly hard thing to put your finger on and sort of why someone has that, why someone doesn't have that. But pretty much all those guys have that sort of that extra bit of edge to them where they're not afraid to sort of stand up and hit a shot in the sort of the moment when they need it.
And was it a case of you were able to see that up close and personal with any one guy in particular and go, right, I need to come away and take that away to my own game?
Um, to be honest, I play the most holes I think with Shane, out of the year last year, out of the pros obviously, and I think he just sort of was so like even if he was hitting bad shots, he knew where the bad shot was going, so he just sort of played it that way. Um, to be honest with you, I think in terms of like on course and tournament, I probably didn't get that much of an experience from it. Um, I think in the Masters I played with BJ Singh, who missed the cut by I think a few similar to me, and then Scott Stallings, who sort of just about made the cut. Um, and then I think Ryan Fox was probably the most impressive in terms of the how he played in the tournament when I played with him. Um, and he just, as I said, he just did everything sort of pretty much held out when he needed to, and sort of down the line held on, hit a really good stretch of shots on the way in to make the cut comfortably. So, I didn't. Yeah, it depends. You're going to see that incredible stuff if you're towards the latter stages of the tournament, which obviously I missed the cut in both of them, so I wasn't wasn't there for that. But yeah, just those sort of even down the stretch making the cut is it was cool to watch.
You spoke about how you've played the most with Shane. Obviously, both yourself and Shane have Neil Manship as a coach. How did that relationship with Neil come about for yourself personally?
Yeah, so I sort of first maybe met Neil back in like 2018, maybe 2019, and then played first run with nationals in 2019. So just sort of obviously kept in contact through the Irish team over the last 5 years or so. Um, I sort of struggled a bit with my short game, maybe back in like 2018, 2019. So obviously his connection with Laurie and Laurie's reputation. So I just went down to Neil and sort of had a few short game lessons with him, and just sort of see how that would go. So yeah, I find it quite helpful. It's short game is definitely better now than than it was back then. So he's sort of doing something right with that. In terms of swing coach, I've always gone to Michael McGee up in Malone, since I was 12 or 13. So I sort of had Michael's sort of swing coach 100%, and Neil I sort of get him to have a look at short game every now and again as well. So um, Neil's a great character. He's like he'll I think he'll be 90% psychological coaching your short game and 10% physically on the sort of the actual mechanics of it, which
Hmm.
is good. It's what I like. So that's obviously why I've kept on going doing for that. It's I think from a short game point of view, it is a lot of mentality that you need to have in the right head space when you're going into it, confidence, and I think that's as I said, 90% of the battle in short game and putting.
Neil's a funny one where I think with most people that I spoke to who have him as a coach, you were saying there, yeah, it's a lot psychological, but he's kind of like a mentor as much as anything. Would you look at him that way? And if not necessarily Neil, have you got someone that you go to for a bit of a sounding board for life as well as for golf?
Yeah, I mean, probably not as much in life. No, I wouldn't. I sort of sort of keep like personal life and sort of golf life pretty separate, to be honest. But in terms of like obviously like what I said about Michael McGee, if he's been the sort of coach I've always had. If we were talking about around the golf or something specific, I would always sort of pick his brain and have chats with him to sort of see what the situation is. But as I said, obviously Neil's experience on tour and majors and Ryder Cups over the last few years are great pieces of advice to listen to. So anytime I'm sort of down a Carton House or if we're doing something, yeah, there's certainly again a lot of the lesson. If you go out for an hour lesson with Neil, a lot of it is conversations and learning things from maybe other players that he's come in contact with as well. So yeah, it's great just to chat to him and pick his brain about stuff that he's experienced in his career as well. So yeah, he's definitely a positive influence in terms of golf for me. Yeah.
Overall, the last 2 years since we probably got to spend a bit of time with you last 2023, 2024 have been very, very successful years for yourself. Obviously, like if you look at I guess, some of the big events and the big courses you've got to play, you were in the 2023 Walker Cup team. What was our experience like? I know, obviously, maybe not from the team side, the results you guys wanted, but personally, another good week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Walker Cup was, to be honest with you, probably 5 years ago, when I sort of started playing sort of amateur golf more competitively and more sort of full time. I don't know if Walker Cup was a goal. Like I think that was. I don't know if I 100% thought about it that way and said I definitely didn't sit down and say I'm going to make a Walker Cup. So I don't really remember thinking that was really a goal of mine back then. But probably after 2021, obviously the Seminole team was early that year, so I felt like 2021 I was sort of getting close to the sort of the at least in the conversation for the top 10.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously that was very early that year, so we had the rest of the season to play and made the St Andrews Trophy then in 2022, and then obviously making that team. Then that was obviously my goal for next year was to stick within the top 10 and play the Walker Cup. So, yeah, it was incredible. Like it was. I mean, I think if we won, I would probably say it was the best week of the year, including Masters, US Open, all that stuff. It really was incredible. It was the best like experience in terms of fun that I've had in a golf course throughout the week. I think the sort of defining difference is that like we were sort of the 10 players were the center of the tournament. Where obviously in the majors, it's great to play there, but you're a background you're a background character when you come to the Masters, which is fair. But you're front and center in the Walker Cup, and there's 4 matches out on the course with 10,000 people following them. So um, at St Andrews especially, it was incredible. So as you said there, obviously if we manage to win, which I think obviously when you're playing, you don't know what the situation is, but talking to guys after, even going into the back nine on the singles and the Sunday, we were probably actually favourites going into that back nine. And obviously a few matches flipped on the way in, and we lost it by one in the end. But yeah, incredible experience to be a part of that team. Once you sort of get into those teams, you want to sort of stick in there as much as you can, and enjoy the sort of the team aspect of golf. But it's yeah, definitely a great week. And individually, I was pretty happy with my golf as well. So it was nice to sort of put yourself up against that standard, and come out with a positive mindset of it.
Golf's a funny sport, and I guess your playing within golf is a very interesting one. You play a lot of team golf, like internationally for Ireland, but then also like you're just back from Korea. You're heading off again in a few weeks' time. You just played Bridges Cup. What is it about team golf that you like so much, and particularly within a sport that's very individualistic?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I played team sports growing up. Underage stuff. I played pretty much um, as many sort of sports as I could, but Gaelic and football being the sort of the two main ones that stuck along. So I think if you play those sports, and you sort of enjoy the team aspect, and you're successful in those sports, you miss that sort of that team environment when you're successful. It's the same as having your better. Everyone's would rather have a party with 20 people as opposed to by yourself. So it's you sort of miss that. You definitely miss that aspect of competitive sport, celebrating with other people. So the team, again, I probably played like maybe 5, 6 team events this year.
Hmm.
And with some success at the start of the year, obviously at Euro Nations with the Irish team. And then obviously, some really cool events to play as well towards the end of the year. So it's a lot of fun. It's you get out, play a bit of foursomes, some singles stuff. You still got that singles aspect to it, and just even the evenings and stuff. It's laid back. Everyone's having a good time, so it's hard not to enjoy yourself those weeks.
For sure. You were talking when you were on the podcast last about your US mid-am experience, and obviously you housed with Hugh Foley, played against Hugh Foley in the very end.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also someone that you spent a lot of time with, and you played a lot of these team events with. He threw a few digs at you when he was on the
Oh
podcast.
yeah,
There, you were the butt of a couple of jokes. You've got the
yeah,
floor
yeah.
now to throw a bit of shade back at him. But what's it like then when you get to play a lot of these team events with a friend of yours, and you get to just build a deeper relationship and a bit deeper friendship with someone like you?
Yeah, as you said, it is great. I've been listening to the podcast. He's all over the place. He's dropping my name left, right, and center. So he must be in his head. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. He must be thinking about me. But I'll let him. I'll let him just make the jokes. He's the funny man in the Fortunes partnership. But yeah, no, it's great. Listen, obviously, me and you have played a lot of golf over the last sort of 3 years, really. There, but ever since obviously the mid-am in 22, we've then obviously played quite a bit, just events probably in America, a number of times. So, yeah, it's been great. Listen, it's a really good experience you get with golf when you get to a certain standard, and you can play these team events, and you obviously meet loads of people playing the tournaments, and obviously some of them the guys you play against and you want to beat, you have friendships with as well. So it's been great, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that once if you spend that amount of time with someone, and you definitely do get to know each other, and I think Hugh's forgotten, what the tipping culture is in America. I have to go back, and he can't be leaving 2% tips and bills. He's tries to run out with the money in his pocket.
That sounds like Hugh Foley. All right. You mentioned that, or I mentioned that you're just back from Korea. What was that experience like? I imagine getting to play golf in Korea is a treat that many people probably won't get to do.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, in terms of golf, you never really know like what's next in terms of where you're going or what you could play. So, um, yeah, Korea. I think Korea is probably my favorite, experience from a sort of travel point of view with golf. Um, the golf course was unbelievable. It was a really exclusive place to play golf. So we're pretty lucky to play there for the week. Um, and the hospitality is like you've heard of like Japanese, Korean hospitality, and it was fantastic. It really was nothing was sort of no stone was left unturned when we were out there. So it was really good experience. As I said, like the food, the culture, um, the city itself, and how we were treated was incredible. So, it was a great tournament to be a part of. And the guys, I think it's 8 a.m. golf for the guys who run it. So they really did everything in terms of following the golf coverage, media stuff,
Mm.
uniforms, and anything that was needed done. They did it fantastically. So, it was, yeah, as I said, just really cool to be a part of it, and it'll be sort of interesting to see where it goes in the future.
What's the golf culture like in Korea? Because obviously Ireland's got a very historic culture of golf. Korea, it's still a pretty young sport out there, is it?
Yeah, I mean, again, what I took from it was that obviously they had KJ Choi is their sort of golfing god out there. But then you also had Wai Yang, who obviously won the PGA against Tiger. So they have those two guys in the men's side of the sport anyway. And obviously the female side of the sport, they're producing so many top level golfers. So they're obviously doing something right in terms of producing young players and bringing them through. And the sort of what I got from it was that it's actually a pretty exclusive sport in Korea. It costs a lot of money to play. It costs a lot of money to sort of raise a juvenile through the ranks to do it. So I'm not too sure how the mix of how expensive it is and how sort of exclusive and elite it is,
Sure.
like transfers into producing all these players. But I think the places should probably study Korea's golfing academies and sort of try to do something similar.
You've had a lot of success now when it comes to a lot of the team golf over the last couple of years. You had your first Irish Amateur Championship this year. You won the Irish Amateur in County Sligo. What was that week like? Obviously, it was the second time. It was a funny one. Second time this year that the championship has been in County Sligo, with the West obviously being there every single year.
Mm-hmm.
But the amateur, different week, different. Actually, not too different weather conditions to the West. The West was pretty good this year. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
raining, but it was very, very windy.
Yeah, yeah. I played the West this year. It was my sort of first tournament of the year, back from I don't know when the last one was, maybe September, October. So yeah, I played the West. The weather was, as I said, it was pretty good for West conditions of over the years. It was very acceptable. So I was quite happy with how I played in the West. But just sort of even down the stretch, I think it was in the quarters. I was just hit too many really bad shots that when the pressure does that to you, if you're not sort of actually locked in with your swing and sort of have that confidence going once you're down the stretch, it's very hard to sort of lock out a match. So I was
Yeah.
happy enough with the West. It's disappointing the way I finished the match, but at the same time, it was good sort of rounds under the belt for coming into the Irish Am. Um, and then, as I said, obviously Irish Am, I managed just to put 4 rounds together that were one sort of very good round, and then three decent rounds. And if you add four rounds together, you're going to be thereabouts at the end of the week.
So, what are initial thoughts then after you'd won the championship as your first, like I said, first major amateur championship? Did it feel like a little bit of a monkey off the back? Because I think when people look at you or look at your record, you're a player that's always thereabouts. You're always in the hunt. You're always one of the favorites if anyone's putting money on it. So was it relief or a little bit of indication that you got this title, this trophy now?
Yeah, probably a bit of both. Yeah. As you said, I've sort of competed pretty decently in sort of the Irish events and a few ones overseas as well over the last like 6 years.
Mm.
And even going back to 2018, I had a real good chance to win the North and um, didn't. So it's one of those things that I could count on, probably couldn't count in two hands how many times I sort of felt as if I was, in the driving seat in a championship and didn't get across the line. So yeah, it is what it is. Again, it's obviously at the end of the day, it's amateur golf, so the world's not going to end if you win the North or lose the North, or is what it is. But at the same time, it doesn't feel very good at the time to lose something that you sort of feel you should have won. But yeah, as you said, there's definitely multiple ones over the years that I haven't finished off. So it was yeah, no, it was great, to be honest with you. It was a really bit of relief, but I think even the year, was it the year before? I can't remember, it was the year before that. I lost in the playoff in Irish. I think it was 22.
Mm.
And again, that was one of the sort of major sort of ones I let slip, to be honest. So it was good to sort of have it at the Irish Am as well. That was one I sort of thought I could have had in the cabinet, and it was good to definitely get my name on that trophy as the first Irish major amateur championship win. Yeah.
You said there that obviously amateur and golf in general is not the be all and end all. Do you think the fact that it's not a career and that you do have the chance to kind of go back to life and you know the daily job is a nice way to just compartmentalize the game?
Yeah, I think it helps. I think that's again, not having ever turned pro myself. It's maybe a sort of a bit of an assumption here and just sort of looking into it, but I think that is a part of guys making that turn from amateur golf to pro golf, and obviously it is a very difficult transition. It's if you look at the stats over the years, obviously it's a difficult jump, but I think part of that is that in amateur golf, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's an amateur tournament that, other than the bragging rights of having your name in the trophy and winning, that's all great, but it's not going to necessarily change your life. Whereas compared to pro golf, it's all or nothing. So I think that's obviously the obvious factor that's different between the two. Um, but at the same time, you sort of have to try to remind yourself of that when you're playing an amateur tournament, because it's very easy to get into the situation where you feel as if this is the only thing that matters in the world at the time. And I always find it funny when you leave a golf tournament, and no matter what level it is, once you leave the gates of the golf club, it's another day. Nothing happened that day. That you go into the shop and buy a bottle of water, and the guy serving you doesn't even have a clue what's going on. So it's a good way to sort of remind yourself that it's not the end of the world, and hopefully take a bit of pressure off your shoulders when you're playing the tournament.
Do you ever try and think about it like that when you're actually out in the golf course and you're like, it's not like it's, GAA or something like that, where if you're parochial about it,
Mm.
I imagine if you are playing county GAA and you go to the newsagents, someone will probably recognize you. Do you ever think
Yeah,
about that in the golf course that you're like, look, I know it's only golf at the end of the day, but obviously you want to win, but it is only golf.
yeah, no, absolutely. There's times where I've played in the course of, if you take a double or something on a hole, and everyone knows that feeling where you're like, you feel as if it's the end of the world, and you're having a disaster. You're the only person who's ever made a double bogey, like, but
Day one.
um, I know that's it over. Yeah, just walk in. So yeah, I try to sort of sometimes think that, like, try to look at the bigger picture of there's stuff that's going on outside of this golf course, in your own life as well. There's more important things going on. So yeah, try to remember those times where even if you've won, I think it's a good experience in terms of, once you leave the golf course and you've won, then when you find out people, the average person in the street doesn't care if you've won or lost. It's a way to sort of make it a bit more, I think, a bit more comfortable, take the pressure off you, and using it as an advantage that you can sort of hopefully close out matches and close out tournaments.
And then with that, I guess it's coming to an interesting time of the year, you're talking about the importance of kind of life outside of golf. This time of year now, again, it's getting a bit wintry. Obviously, you're heading over to the States and stuff. Do you put the golf clubs away after any kind of big trips like this, and then take the winter off, or what do you do to decompress away from golf, particularly kind of this time of year?
Yeah, I think the season sort of the last few years has been different in terms of different things have been on at different times, and this year it's actually probably golf has been pushed. It's going to push a wee bit longer towards Christmas this year. So as you said, I played quite a bit. Been back home for a couple of weeks, and then we're going out for the concession cup in on Saturday here out to America for a week. So um, I've got an exemption into the Live Golf Q School in Saudi in the middle of December as well. So that's sort of going to push the golf right up nearly until Christmas this year,
Okay.
which is good. So normally I would sort of probably mid-November, I would pretty much not hardly play golf. I'd maybe go out and play once a week, once every 2 weeks. Um, and that's it really. And then even into January, not a huge amount. So this year I think I'm probably going to do a bit different. I'm going to try to probably actually keep on to the practice this winter and not sort of take a break as such.
Hmm.
I could took too much of a break last year. I think was the problem. I really didn't do a huge amount over the winter last year and probably left it a bit too long. So I'm going to try to keep a bit sharper, sort of constantly over the winter this year. And hopefully that's you're obviously in a better position coming into the start of the season. So yeah, normally a long time off, a bit less this year, I think.
What's the exemption into the Live event? We were talking to Ryan Griffin, had him on. Obviously, he got his exemption as well in through Palmer Cup. How did you get yours?
Yeah, so the 2023 Walker Cup had an exemption for last year, and then I was just sort of I didn't know if it was going to continue into this year or not, but it's continuing into this year as well. So
Okay,
I only found out pretty late last year, so I'd already sort of worked in for those weeks, and just it would have been too much of a mess to try to rearrange things. So didn't go last year for that reason. So yeah, I'm gonna head over this year and give it a go and see what happens.
very good. First time in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, yeah. Never been. I've been to Dubai and Abu Dhabi a couple of times with golf. So been out that sort of direction a few times, but never made it to Saudi Arabia, So it'll be an interesting experience. It's obviously a very different culture to hear in terms of religion. Obviously, it's alcohol. There's no alcohol out there. Very different lifestyle out there. So
Mm.
it'll be cool to see what it's all about, and I'm sure obviously a part of that tournament. It'll be a great experience. So looking forward to seeing the place as well as obviously playing the golf tournament.
How many countries do you go to then, or have you been to this year? Because it seems like you travel and play a good few more international team events yourself, and you've only more than the average lead amateur would.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more since 2022. There's been a lot of sort of invites in America that have been invited to play and go out and play those tournaments. So it's a lot. It is a decent amount of travel, mainly in America. Obviously that one in Korea was another sort of a new experience. So we get around a good bit in these tournaments. So it's cool. We normally there's maybe like one or two new sort of locations each year that you get to see. Like obviously South Korea this year, and
Mm.
obviously a new place in Americas. I haven't been to. We're going to Savannah, and it's a new sort of experience in different cities in America. So yeah, a lot of travel. So travel does get old pretty quick. In fairness, when you're sitting on a plane for 13 hours, but it's worth it once you get there. Obviously to those places.
Yeah, I can imagine. How do you like? It must be tough to manage the travel and the just the sheer exhaustion. I think I remember seeing you at Dunleary for the AIG Irish Close, and I
Yeah,
think you landed in on like the Thursday morning or something. I went straight up for practice rounds and tournament rounds like the next day.
yeah.
It it must be get tiring.
Yeah, no, that was a mistake. Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the last time I shot 83 or whatever I shot, but that was rushing. That was just pushing it to the limit to get back. I think there was an Irish Open spot up last year in terms of that was sort of the last tournament it was on. So in hindsight, yeah, probably shouldn't have came back, but is what it is. So that was an extreme example, yeah, definitely of jet lag and what it can do to you. So most of the times we try to, if there's any significant time zone difference, you know, you try to get out a few days early. And anytime we've gone to America for tournaments, it's getting out there a week early is so important just in terms of getting over jet lag. So that's what jet lag can do to you. It was like, I don't know, I didn't feel tired when I was playing in Dunleary, but I was hitting like some shots I hadn't hit in, I don't know, 15 years. So it was obviously doing something in the background. But it is important, you know, all joking aside, in terms of jet lag and trying to get over jet lag and giving yourself, you know, enough time to get back into the right time zone and sleep pattern is very important.
So what will you do then once you put the golf clubs away? Is there anything you'll do to relax particularly, or is there anything you like to do to take up in the winter months to just tune off from the golf for the small amount of time you probably do tune out from golf?
Yeah. Honestly, it's funny and sort of thing. Even when you sort of stop playing golf, you sort of you probably go play golf in like a, you know, just a Saturday with a few mates in the golf club, and you know, chill out. You know, obviously you go out and you get to sort of catch up with people you don't get to see probably enough people throughout. Probably your girlfriend being top of that list. So just sort of, yeah, being back and you know, obviously going out, having a few drinks, and you know, going out and seeing friends, and you know, that's probably the top of the list. Um, and then yeah, just try to, you know, probably get a small breakaway somewhere pre Christmas, and then January I always feel as if it's like, you know, head down, pretty much try to work every day, and you know, hardly see sunlight for January. So that's sort of the plan this year, and you know, probably more February, start of February, get the clubs out and get back to golf again. Yeah.
How do you balance work between the amount of travel, but that's also the amount of practice and just playing that is required to compete at the high level of golf that you do compete at?
Yeah, it's tricky enough. I'm lucky enough just in terms of with my work and working as a locum, so I'm not contracted to any hours, so I can, you know, take X amount of time off in a row and not have to ask anyone for it. So that's the only way I could do it. If I had a full time contracted job, you know, you get 4 weeks holiday or 5 weeks holiday, the same as any other job. So that's the way I sort of balance it anyway, in terms of being able to work. And we obviously money's a factor as well. And obviously when it comes down to that, you know, so we obviously get some funding from Golf Ireland.
Mm.
I get funding from Sport NI, which is very helpful actually. So it's you have that sort of backing there, which is great. Um, and then obviously in certain weeks, it's, you know, it's all, you know, the expenses are paid for in terms of most of the team tournaments. Um, you know, you're not paying for those yourself. So
Mm.
uh, yeah, it comes down to your own money. You know, you're spending your own money in there as well to sort of fund it as well. But that's just, it's part of amateur golf. It's sort of the way it is. So yeah, obviously you have to work a certain amount to be able to sort of, you know, survive. You got to eat, you got all that stuff. So you certainly have to. There's certain things you cut back on. That's, you know, there's no doubt about it. So obviously you don't go on as many holidays as such. You know, obviously it's great traveling the world and playing golf, and some people call those holidays. But you know, you cut back on certain things. You know, just certain everyday lifestyle. You've got to prioritize one thing, and you know, if you prioritize the golf, then that's where, you know, the money goes into, and that's where your time goes into. So um yeah, it takes up a lot of time, but I just, yeah, I love the sort of the competing of the amateur golf. And as I said, once you get to a certain standard, it really pushes you in to get better and practice and compete with the top guys.
You're one of the more laid back people I've ever met, and you, even when you're talking about your golf now, you are very relaxed and laid back about it. But to compete at the level that you do compete at, and everyone competes at an Irish and international elite level, takes a huge amount of motivation. Like, where does that motivation come from?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that idea. So that like sort of I am relatively laid back in terms of trying to sort of not be too stressed out about things. But there's also that idea you have a sort of personality persona, and then when you're sort of practicing and putting hours in, it's not as laid back as what sort of it actually it seems more laid back than it actually is in reality. So yeah, I've always just loved sports and just the sort of competitive nature of sports. And just pretty competitive at anything, to be honest with you. So whether it's something completely sort of with no reward at the end of it, I will still try to win it. So it's probably just that competitive nature is what drives me. And just golf itself, just great playing golf. There's thousands of amateurs in Ireland that have that exact same feeling anytime you win a Saturday competition, or if you make your first birdie. It's that exact same feeling that any of the top amateur gets as well. When you play a tournament and play great, it's obviously just really enjoyable. So just enjoy the sport and enjoy the environment that you get to play in. Yeah.
Where does your competitive nature come from?
I don't know. I think most people, you're either born, you're just sort of as part of your genetics. It's just the way it is. I have a bit of sort of sporting um, sort of success in my family, sort of from my sort of mum dad's side, sort of generation back. And then sort of growing up with an older brother as well. It's when you're playing, he's 2 years older than me, so he's always just, when you're going up to a certain level, he's always just that bit ahead of you. So you've always that sort of person to chase, and you want to get better. So it's yeah, it's just, I think it is in you, but in your environment as you're growing up in school, and the people you hang about with, that spurs the competitive spirit on. And just again, when you stick around with golfers, I think golfers are the most competitive people I've ever met. Everyone hates losing in golf, and you go away over the winter and you practice and get better just for that one moment where you can hold a 10 footer in the last against a few of your friends and beat them. It's well worth it.
Do you remember some of your early kind of competitive memories where you were like, "Oof, this is what I wanted. This is what I want to pursue."
Yeah, I think I started playing. I remember a moment actually in a football match. I played like a decent level of football, and I remember we were playing like a league match. I was only like 13 or something like that, 14. Um, and I was like practicing my golf swing on, like, I was playing left wing, so I was like practicing my golf swing on the left wing in the middle of a football match. And I was like, right, it's probably it's probably time to stop playing football and just play golf. So yeah, I remember playing a bit of underage golf, and I always felt I was better than what I like was maybe, but that sort of belief that you have that sort of ability was always there to a certain level. So yeah, I think playing Ulster boys, I had a good year in boys golf, and making the interpros team in boys golf was obviously a big deal at the time. So that was, from then on, I sort of felt I had definitely something to work on. And it wasn't until probably after I came back from work over in England, went to Gran Canaria for about 2.5 months to practice and did nothing else. Played golf and solid 8 hours every day for 2.5 months, and came back and played the Rossapena Scratch Cup back in 2018. And it was the first round of golf back from being away practicing, and shot 6 under, 3 under, bogey free for 36 holes. And I thought, I've never played golf like that before. So that was probably the day that I was like, I think there's something to work on here.
And that was hardly the first time you realized, all right, I'm pretty good at this, because there was definitely a point before that where you're like, this is like, I'm better than the average person here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in terms of that sort of level of when I remember I think I was 12 in playing golf in Balmoral as a juvenile. I was 12 years old, and there was a senior cup team being picked that year, and I just made the team on sort of like the fifth pick as a 12-year-old,
Yeah,
and
at
I was
12.
yeah, I was like, well, that's pretty good, yeah. And then sort of get down to like a five handicap at 13, you can sort of tell. I always think that thing when you're a juvenile and you're allowed to go and play with a man is like your rite of passage in a golf club. You're like, right, okay, you can come out and hang with the grown ups and play golf with the big guys, So probably around that time, 12, 13, when you start to play with the scratch players in the golf club, is when I sort of I was probably recognized that I was decent at it.
I'm still waiting for that call to go play the grown-ups.
Yeah, you're still the kids table, are you?
Apparently so. Yeah, apparently I haven't been asked to play senior golf yet, but I don't think I ever will either, to be honest.
Oh, you never know, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Um, so I kind of touched upon it earlier on with that Neil Manship question about mentors and whether like you've any picked up anyone along the way. Have you? Is there someone that you kind of go to from time to time to just check in on and just go to it for advice or even just to get away from the game at all?
Um, I don't know. It's tough. There probably isn't anyone in particular. In terms of not one person. I'll go. I have to go and talk to this person and get some life advice about it. Obviously, like my parents are probably the two people that I can like talk to, and they'll give you advice and what they think. And I haven't always sort of taken their advice, but they're for the most part, they're very rarely wrong. So yeah, it's probably me and my parents. Yeah, going from a general life perspective. Obviously, if there's any sort of big decisions that you have to take or this that I would talk to them about it and get their sort of perspective on it. But they wouldn't really have anything in terms of golf. They don't. My dad plays golf, but he would admit himself that he wouldn't necessarily call himself a golfer. And my mom doesn't play golf, so it's from a golf aspect, it wouldn't be that I wouldn't be talking to them a huge amount. But in terms of obviously like deciding to take work off and going to play golf and doing that sort of stuff, it is something I talk to them about. But I generally have an idea and sort of just go with it, to be honest with you. So and then work it out along the way. But
So
yeah, no, they've been great. Yeah.
when you first say your parents, right, I want to play this elite level game as an amateur, but keep up my job, and it means traveling the world, taking time off work. What's their take on that? I mean, it's not you hear so many people stories about young kids these days looking to turn professional and trying to chase that pro dream as fast as possible, whereas the idea of professional golf, it seems like, doesn't really appeal to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, playing professional golf and winning 2 million euro and traveling all the world, like, who doesn't want to do that? But, the reality is there's only probably 50 guys in the world who have that lifestyle. A lot of the guys that are, perceived as, having this great lifestyle and, going around and playing golf and being able to do that for a living is, I'm sure that it is a great experience and great way to live. But there's no doubt that there's a percentage of the guys that don't enjoy it. It's a lot of time away, a lot of traveling. It's a tough way to make a living. So, um, yeah, it's any guys do it. It's pretty respectable job to have, and I think that sometimes, to be honest with you, a lot of golfers probably don't get the credit that they deserve in terms of how hard it is. How much it sort of takes a toll physically and mentally on a lot of guys who play golf. So, um, it's a tough route, but again, those guys who've gone through it and got their sort of status by working up the ranks, they're unbelievable achievements. So, for me, it's just that stage where I'm 31, so I'm not going down that route. It's time's not on my side from that aspect. And if I was in that position when I was 21 and I was in that sort of level, you played Walker Cup and you were going ahead, and I'd certainly say, yeah, I would have turned pro and give it a go, but that wasn't the case. So for myself, it's at this stage, it's definitely enjoying the amateur aspect of it and enjoying it as much as I can. And the same as anyone else's life, there's certain things happen in life and you have less time and other things become more important, and that's the reality of it. So I'm just saying, yeah, enjoy it while I have the time on my hands to enjoy it. And
It seems
yeah,
it seems like you kind of have the best of both worlds. So, like you're saying, you're getting to travel to, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, travel to some pretty amazing countries, some new countries you haven't been to before, new parts of the world you haven't been to before. Play your golf, but then at the end of the day, park it there and go back to real life.
yeah, sure. And that is pretty much the reality of it. There's no like there's no hidden things of this or what's going on. That is pretty much what I do for the last few years. Um, Again, same idea. There's things you don't do as a result of that. But you choose whatever you do in life. So at the moment, this is sort of what I'm happy doing and having a good time. So I'll it will the balance will change obviously in terms of I'm not going to be away playing 15 tournaments a year for the next 5 years.
Mm.
But there's a lot of cool tournaments that I've thankfully have exemptions into over the next few years, and it might have to sort of not play a few tournaments to be able to play those tournaments, and you just have to play that by ear. But yeah, no, it is very enjoyable, and I'm pretty lucky to be in that position where I've got my sort of job behind me, got my sort of university degree behind me, and I can work as that in the winter, and obviously get to go out and play, as you said, obviously great golf courses, great experiences, and get that side of the competitive golf as well.
So, what does the immediate future hold? You're off to, is it Savannah, Georgia, you were saying?
Yeah, Savannah on Saturday, so we're going out with Keelan and Hughes. Made his way on the team again, so he'll be on his best behavior as always. So I'm sure the three of us will go out. We'll behave ourselves for the week, and try to play some good golf. So it's a great experience to play. We all three of us played 2 years ago in Valderrama, so we obviously know the guys who are running the event, and the team captain for ourselves and a few of the Americans. So it'll be a great week. Yeah, looking forward to getting out to a bit of decent weather. The weather's been all right back home actually since I've been back, but it'll be nice to get a pair of shorts and t-shirts on again to play a bit of golf.
And it's for the Concession Cup, which is, explain the format there for anyone that would want to follow along.
Yeah, so the Concession Cup is basically the top mid amateurs and top senior players in America and Europe play against each other. So it's 6 over 25s and 6 over 50s, I think. Basically in a combined sort of Ryder Cup format, foursomes, four ball singles.
Cool.
And it's a good week, good competitive golf, and the guys, as I know in the European side, it's really trying to pick the top six competitive mid amateurs to make up the team. So obviously a really strong team just based on world rankings alone, and obviously the amount of tournaments between the six of us we've won and played, and it's a pretty good standard. And I know pretty much all the American guys, and they're all as impressive. So it's going to be a good week. And again, it's a great sort of event that the Amateur Golf Alliance has produced basically just a number of years ago. So they're putting a lot of money and effort into having a platform for some of the sort of top level mid amateurs in the world to play against each other, and obviously have that experience.
And is that a USGA event? Like, so do you get Wagger points for that then as well?
It's not ESGA. It's a amateur golf alliance. I think is the sort of association that creates the event. So it's another amateur sort of body out in America. So they have golf events, and this is sort of one of their more recent ones that they've tried
Cool.
to start. So they sort of have obviously fundraisers to create the money and all that sort of stuff, and people who like golf or involved with golf obviously back it. So it's a cool event, yeah. And as I said, it is competitive, but it is a great and enjoyable week as well. Everyone's a bit older, and everyone's there just to, there's a social side of it as well, where you get to meet other golfers from across the world, and just sort of hang out and have a good time.
Lovely. Well, listen, we might catch up with you again at the start of next season, or just even, yeah, we'll do it after Christmas. Once we'll give you a bit of downtime, enjoy some time off after that. But we'll have a a nice catch up to see what your goals are for 2025. I imagine you probably you haven't looked ahead to the next season just yet. You're finishing off this one.
Finish off this one, yeah. We'll see. Obviously the goal is to go to Saudi and play professional golf next year. That's obviously the goal, but a tough task ahead. But we'll see. That'll be a good podcast if that's the headline.
Yeah, let's tell you what. If you qualify for that, we'll definitely have you on. We'll definitely do a follow-up podcast then.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good.
Lovely stuff. Listen, thanks very much for having the chat. Really appreciate it. Always good to catch up, Matt. Congratulations again on winning the Irish Amateur and what's been a very successful 2024 for you. And good luck over in America.
No bother. Thanks for having me on again there. It was good crack.
On the tee, Jack Nicklaus.
This is the minute that millions around the world have waited for.
We will allow you to enjoy all of this. They are dancing in the pubs of Dublin. Harrington with an ace.
And we have a shining star at sunset. Rory continues his run to greatness.
The return to glory.